If I ask my submissive to help hold me accountable, is that asking her to top from the bottom or no? Oh, this is a juicy question because it's something that I'm asking for her to do, much like asking for her to top me in the bedroom. Example and context. I suffer from a disability that's not constant but flares up, and when I'm in a flare up, I'm not at my full mental and physical capabilities. Girl, I feel you. It forces me to realize I lack consistency in these moments. One example is baby girl asked for permission to be naughty alone. I gave permission and asked what I get in return. She asked what would please me, and my response was practicing knife play. I forgot about it because I hit a flare up. I would like to then ask her or tell her that it's okay, and I would like it if she gently reminds me. Something like, didn't you say I owed you some knife play? Or I really want to watch you draw something into me, ma'am. Okay, here's the thing. I would not advise this at all. I would not advise, no. I would not advise asking your submissive to hold you accountable. No, 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 no. Because here's the thing. You can ask her to top you sexually, but there can only be one leader at one time. Sexually topping is not leadership. What you threw out at me would be a leadership, where the submissive is now panned out and has a sense of responsibility to care for you, to keep you on track, right? So it's very different. Sexually topping and leadership, two very different things. And so dominance consists of topping, but it also consists of leadership. Ooh. So this is why I would not advise that. It gives her to, yeah. I would absolutely say it's going to put her in that space. Even the phrasing that you suggested, I love like how sweet you're trying to be and how like respectful you were trying to script what she could possibly say to you. But even this, like, didn't you say I owed you some knife play, or I really want to watch you draw something into me, ma'am, are both kind of backhanded, passive, maybe aggressive ways of communicating that I wouldn't even advise as is. What if taking notes and reading them back when instructed as an act of service would be better? Taking notes and reading them back when instructed? That could be an act of service, but I think we have better options here. And I don't think you're talking out of your ass, and I would like to never see you minimize and gaslight yourself like that again, Danny. Okay, that was another question. What does she do? She goes into service sub mode, usually take notes for yourself, but I am not in a good place during flare up. Okay, about how long, if you don't mind me asking, do these flare ups last? How long are you like just not feeling yourself? Okay, so there's no telling. There's no telling when it's going to hit or how long. Okay. So then, because it's so inconsistent, what I would suggest is having you're going to need to create some sort of consistency somewhere. And because you can't plan or predict when these flare ups are going to hit you or how long they're going to be with you, my advice would be to create consistency around when they do. You can't account for when they will, but when they do, if you have a set, this is our game plan, that would be my advice for you. So literally, I have on my Patreon a PMS modification agreement. I know that's not what we're dealing with here, but I want you to look that over and maybe start drafting a modification agreement of your own. Like, this is normally how we are in our dynamic. These are our rules, rituals, and protocols. These are what's expected of me as the dom. This is what is expected of her as the submissive. But during a flare up, everything changes. Our dynamic shifts to this. Okay? So, part of this I would also suggest, if you struggle with being aware, being present, being able to follow through with some things, part of this new modification agreement needs to include less responsibility for you. Less responsibility for you. not even saying less responsibility for the submissive, but less that you have to actively manage. So if you trust the submissive in service sub mode, if you trust the submissive in alpha sub mode to do what's expected, to even look and see where she can jump in to meet some needs, but not control, not dominate, not lead. If you trust that, she's great and very patient. So do you like the mode that she goes into and find it helpful when you have a flare up? Do you like the service sub mode, the alpha sub mode that she gets into as more of a caregiver? Do you like that? Yes, we like that. Okay. So then I would just say, because she's definitely getting some pleasure out of that. Like, she's helping you, her dominant, feel better. She's getting some pleasure out of that. She's feeling like she's still serving you. What I don't want is that to turn into her feeling like your leader, right? And so that's why I'm saying I don't think it's her responsibility. I don't think we should put the responsibility on her to remind you to be dominant or engage in a dominant way. I think part of the expectation during a flare up is very appropriate, manageable levels of your dominant expression. I don't know what that looks like for you. You might need to sit down and get real honest about what that looks like for you just by yourself, or sit down together and talk about, okay, realistically, what could we do to still have some sort of power gap, to still stay connected as dominant and submissive, where I'm just not there. I just cannot. I rode her around, get me water, get my meds, make me food. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, I love that. I love that. No, that's great. That's absolutely great. So, do you feel like when you're ordering her around, getting your water, all that, do you feel like you're operating in a dominant mode and she's operating in a submissive mode? We're still functional. We're still in our zone. You still feel the power gap. Beautiful. Okay. If we draft up a modification agreement, then that's going to solve itself, because the consistency is going to be whatever you deem you are capable of being consistent with. Does that make sense? I think she's already switching a little bit, John. I think that's a great point. I think she's already switching a little bit. It would be a great opportunity for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the way Anola even stated the question was like, how can I have her remind me without the switch happening, is kind of where I went. So great point, John. I just kind of went beyond that. You have a little switching in you? Does she have a little switching in her? And how much do you want to exploit that? Which is a whole different conversation for another time. Okay. Okay. Not so much. Not so much. Okay. So then, yeah, we're going to pivot kind of back to this. Does that make sense what I said here, Anola? That you have to determine what you're capable of being consistent with in that time. And if the only thing, and here's the important thing, Anola, if the only thing you are capable of being consistent with in that flare up moment is laying down, writhing in pain, but yelling at her and bossing her around, then that should be the only expectation placed upon you in that season. And again, this is so that you can literally go, okay, we normally do things this way, and now during this season, we're just going to do this. We know exactly what the expectations are. We know exactly what's expected of you as the dominant. We know exactly what's expected of her as a submissive. We know exactly where the boundaries are for this particular season. And then when I'm no longer in pain, we go back to normal. But I feel like, and tell me if you agree with this or not, but I feel like that would mitigate a lot of the necessity for having to be reminded. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? Your chronic pain flare goddess pick. Okay, good. So yeah, I think drafting something out, being very, very specific, and drafting out a completely new, not dynamic, but this is how in our dynamic we're gonna operate in this time. It's gonna look real different, but it's only gonna last until the pain's gone, then we go right back to it. Okay. There's nothing to be reminded of. Okay. Because we don't want that responsibility, that pressure on the submissive, we also don't want that pressure and that expectation on you when you can't live up to it, you know? We don't want to set anyone up for failure here.